The massive alien station hung in space like a glittering jewel. Lee Junho pressed his face against the small window of the human shuttle and stared at the incredible sight. The station was bigger than any city on Earth. Lights sparkled across, its surface like stars, and strange ships moved around it like insects around a flower. "First time seeing something like this?" asked Captain Park Min-ho from the seat beside him. The military officer looked calm, but Lee could see the wonder in his eyes too. "Nothing could have prepared me for this," Lee said quietly. He was Earth's first ambassador to the galaxy, and the weight of that responsibility felt heavier with each passing moment. Their small shuttle looked like a toy compared to the alien ships around them. The human vessel was simple and boxy, built for function rather than beauty. The alien ships curved and flowed like works of art, their hulls gleaming with unknown metals that seemed to glow from within. The shuttle docked with a soft bump. Lee straightened his simple black suit and picked up his briefcase. Inside were Earth's diplomatic credentials and technical data about human civilization. He hoped it would be enough to earn them a place in the galactic community. The airlock opened with a hiss and they stepped into the alien station. Lee had expected to need breathing equipment, but the air was perfectly fine for humans. The gravity felt normal too. Someone had done their homework about human biology. The corridor they entered was enormous. The ceiling stretched so high above them that Lee had to crane his neck to see it. Strange patterns of light moved across the walls like living things. The floor felt warm under their feet and seemed to glow with a soft inner light. "Welcome, humans," said a voice that seemed to come from everywhere at once. The translation was perfect, but Lee could hear the original alien words underneath it like an echo. Two figures approached them down the corridor. The first was tall and thin, with pale blue skin that seemed to shimmer. Its head was larger than a human's, and its eyes were solid black with no visible pupils. It wore robes that moved like liquid metal. The second alien was completely different. It was shorter but much broader than a human, with rough gray skin that looked like stone. Thick arms ended in hands with too many fingers, and its face was a mass of hard angles and sharp edges. It wore what looked like armor, though it might have been its natural skin. "I am Veltar Nexus of the Veltari Empire," said the tall blue alien. Its voice was musical, like wind chimes in a gentle breeze. "This is War Chief Graxel of the Krex Coalition." The gray alien grunted something that the translator turned into. "Humans look weak." Lee stepped forward and bowed slightly. "I am Lee Junho, Ambassador of the United Earth Government. This is Captain Park Min-ho of our defense forces. We are honored to meet you." Veltar Nexus tilted its head in what might have been curiosity. "Defense forces? How interesting. What do you defend against, Ambassador Lee?" "Other humans, mostly," Lee said with a small smile. "We have not yet encountered hostile alien species." War Chief Graxel made a sound like grinding stone that the translator called laughter. "Humans fight humans? With what? Sticks and rocks?" Captain Park stepped forward. His face remained calm, but Lee could see the tension in his shoulders. "We have developed various weapon systems: kinetic bombardment, electromagnetic acceleration, directed energy applications." The two aliens looked at each other. Veltar Nexus's black eyes seemed to sparkle with amusement. "Kinetic weapons? You mean throwing things?" "In a manner of speaking," Park said carefully, "though our systems can achieve significant velocities." War Chief Graxel's laugh was louder this time. "Humans throw metal pieces at enemies, like children with toys. Our plasma shields can deflect any metal projectiles," Veltar Nexus said in a tone that sounded almost kind, like an adult explaining something simple to a child. "Physical matter cannot penetrate advanced energy barriers." They walked deeper, into the station, passing through halls filled with wonders. Plants that glowed with their own light grew from the walls. Fountains of liquid that wasn't water flowed upward instead of down. Creatures that might have been pets or servants or neither floated through the air without wings. Other aliens moved through the corridors. Some looked like living crystals that rang like bells when they moved. Others were so strange that Lee's mind struggled to understand what he was seeing. All of them stopped to stare at the humans as they passed. "Your species is quite primitive," Veltar Nexus observed as they walked. You have not mastered faster-than-light travel. Your energy manipulation is basic. Your biological enhancement is non-existent. We do what we can with what we have, Lee said diplomatically. They entered a vast chamber with a curved ceiling that showed the stars outside. Hundreds of aliens filled the space, representing dozens of different species. At the center was a raised platform with several throne-like chairs. The Galactic Council, Veltar Nexus explained, the governing body of civilized space. Lee looked around at the assembled aliens. Some floated in the air. Others stood on legs or tentacles, or things that weren't quite either. A few seemed to be made of energy rather than matter. All of them were watching the humans with expressions that ranged from curiosity to amusement to barely hidden contempt. Honored beings of the Council, Lee began, his voice echoing in the huge space. Humanity comes before you seeking friendship and trade. We offer our knowledge, our resources, and our commitment to peace. Knowledge? War Chief Graxel's voice boomed across the chamber. What knowledge could humans possess that we lack? Lee gestured to Captain Park, who activated a small holographic projector. Images appeared in the air above them, showing Earth's cities, its technology, its people. We have developed unique solutions to the challenges of survival, Lee said. Our manufacturing techniques, our computer systems, our weapons technology. The hologram showed a railgun firing. The projectile moved too fast to see, but the target exploded in a shower of metal fragments. The chamber filled with what sounded like alien laughter. Some species clicked or buzzed or made sounds the translator couldn't identify. Weapons technology? Veltar Nexus sounded genuinely amused now. You accelerate metal slugs with magnetism? How delightfully primitive. Our children play with such toys, added another alien whose voice sounded like breaking glass. Magnetic acceleration is the first principle of basic physics, War Chief. Graxel stood up from his chair, his massive form casting a shadow over the humans. Humans think metal bullets can threaten the galaxy. Our shields stop plasma beams hot enough to melt stars. Your little metal pieces would bounce off like raindrops. More laughter filled the chamber. Lee felt his face burn with embarrassment, but he kept his expression calm. Perhaps, he said quietly, but our projectiles achieve velocities that might surprise you. Velocities? Veltar Nexus leaned forward with interest. How fast can your primitive launchers throw their metal toys? Captain Park looked at Lee, who nodded slightly. Our latest test achieved approximately 15% of light speed. The laughter stopped. For a moment, the chamber was completely silent. Then War Chief Graxel's booming laugh filled the space again, even louder than before. 15% of light speed. Humans lie poorly. Nothing solid can move that fast without becoming plasma. The energy requirements alone would be impossible, Veltar Nexus added, though it sounded less certain now. No species developed such technology before mastering basic energy manipulation. Other aliens joined in, their voices creating a chaos of sound that the translator struggled to handle. Lee caught fragments. Impossible. Primitive minds don't understand physics. Humans dream of impossible things. Lee waited for the noise to die down. When it did, he spoke quietly but clearly. We understand that our claims may seem difficult to believe. We are willing to demonstrate our capabilities if necessary. Demonstrate? War Chief Graxel leaned back in his chair. Yes, we would enjoy seeing humans play with their toys. But first, you must understand your place in the galaxy. The outer rim worlds need protection, Veltar Nexus said smoothly. Pirates and rebels sometimes cause trouble. Perhaps human ships could serve as early warning systems? You would not need to fight, merely observe and report to real military forces. The insult was clear, but Lee nodded politely. We would be honored to contribute to galactic peace in whatever way we can. The meeting continued for hours. Trade, agreements were discussed, though the aliens made it clear they saw little value in human goods. Territory was assigned, though humanity was given only a small sector near the edge of known space. Throughout it all, the aliens treated the humans like children who needed guidance and protection. As they returned to their shuttle, Captain Park was quiet. Finally, he spoke. "They have no idea what we're really capable of." Lee nodded slowly. "I tried to warn them. I hope they remember that when the time comes." The shuttle undocked from the station and began its journey back to Earth. Behind them, the glittering alien city continued its work, ruling a galaxy that had just made a very dangerous mistake. On Earth, Dr. Kim So-young watched the diplomatic transmission from her laboratory in Seoul. Around her, the most advanced railgun ever built hummed with contained energy. She shook her head sadly as she watched the aliens laugh at humanity's primitive weapons. "They have no idea," she whispered to herself. No idea. 3 months had passed since first contact, and the galaxy had not been kind to humanity. Admiral Choi Tae-hyun stared out at the stars through the viewport of his flagship, the EDS Seoul. The ship was humanity's most advanced warship, but it looked like scrap metal compared to the alien vessels surrounding the neutral station called Harmony Point. "Admiral, the Krex delegation is demanding tribute again," reported his communications officer. "They want 50% of our mining output from the Kepler colonies." Admiral Choi closed his eyes and took a deep breath. The aliens had been pushing harder each week, testing humanity's limits. They saw humans as weak newcomers who should be grateful for any scraps thrown their way. "Signal the station. We're ready for the meeting," he said. Chief Engineer Yoon Ji-hee approached him carrying a sealed briefcase. She was one of Earth's top weapons designers, and the case contained technical specifications that could change everything, if the aliens would only listen. "Are you sure about this?" she asked quietly. "Once we show them what we really have, there's no going back." "They need to understand," Admiral Choi replied. "If they keep pushing, someone is going to get hurt. I'd rather it not be us." The shuttle trip to Harmony Point was tense. The station was supposed to be neutral ground, but Krex warships surrounded it like hungry wolves. Their ships were sleek and deadly, covered in weapons that could level cities. Energy shields shimmered around their hulls like soap bubbles made of light. Inside the station, the meeting room was designed to accommodate dozens of different alien species. The air mixture was carefully controlled, the gravity was adjustable, and the temperature could be changed for different beings. It was a marvel of engineering that had taken the galaxy thousands of years to perfect. General Mordak of the Krex was already waiting when the humans arrived. He was even larger than War Chief Graxel, with scars covering his stone-like skin. His armor looked like it had been through countless battles, and his weapons were worn smooth from use. With him was Science Commander Zeth Ara of the Veltari Empire. Unlike the musical Veltar Nexus, her voice was sharp and cold. Her robes seemed to absorb light rather than reflect it, and her black eyes held no warmth at all. "Humans are late," General Mordak grumbled. His massive hands could probably crush a human skull without effort. "We arrived precisely on time," Admiral Choi said calmly. He had learned not to show weakness around the Krex. They respected strength, even if they didn't think humans possessed any. "Punctuality is irrelevant," Science Commander Zethara said. "We are here to discuss your species' obligations to the galactic community." They sat around a table made of some kind of crystal that showed swirling patterns inside. Admiral Choi found it beautiful, but he forced himself to focus on the meeting. "The Krex Coalition requires resources for the protection of your colonies," General Mordak began without preamble. "Pirates threaten the outer rim. Your worlds are vulnerable. We offer protection in exchange for reasonable compensation. 50% of our mining output is not reasonable," Admiral Choi replied. "It would cripple our economy." "Then find more efficient ways to mine," the general said with what might have been a shrug. "Or accept that weakness has a price." Science Commander Zeth Ara leaned forward. "The Veltari Empire offers an alternative. We could take administrative control of your colonies. You would remain as workers, but we would handle all defense and trade arrangements." "You want to make us slaves," Chief Engineer Yoon Ji-hee said bluntly. "Such an ugly word," the Science Commander replied. "We prefer protected species. Many primitive civilizations have thrived under our guidance. Admiral Choi felt anger rising in his chest, but he kept his voice level. Perhaps you would reconsider if you understood our true capabilities. General Mordak laughed, a sound like grinding stone. Human capabilities? We have seen your little metal throwers, amusing toys but hardly threatening. Our kinetic systems are more advanced than you believe, Admiral Choi said carefully. We have achieved velocities that bypass conventional defenses. Impossible, Science Commander Zethara said flatly. No solid projectile can exceed 10% of light speed without molecular breakdown. Our shields are designed to handle anything below that threshold. Chief Engineer Yoon Ji-hee opened her briefcase and activated a holographic projector. The air above the table filled with technical diagrams and test footage. These are recordings from our latest weapons tests, she said. The projectiles achieve 15 to 20% of light speed using electromagnetic acceleration. The aliens studied the data with obvious skepticism. General Mordak pointed at the velocity readings. These numbers are fabricated. Metal cannot survive such speeds. The projectiles are specially designed, Yoon Ji-hee explained. Tungsten cores with magnetic containment fields to prevent breakdown. The acceleration is gradual but sustained. Science Commander Zethara manipulated the hologram, studying the technical specifications. Even if these readings were accurate, which they are not, our defensive systems would easily handle such primitive attacks. She gestured, and the hologram changed to show a Veltari warship. Our shields generate plasma fields hot enough to vaporize any solid matter. Your metal bullets would become gas before they could touch our hulls. Plasma shields are designed for energy weapons, Admiral Choi said. They may not be effective against high-velocity kinetic projectiles. All matter becomes energy at sufficient temperatures, the science commander replied coldly. This is basic physics that apparently humans have not mastered. General Mordak stood up, his massive form towering over the table. Enough of this foolishness. Humans dream of impossible weapons because they fear the truth of their weakness. He walked to the viewport and gestured at the Krex warships outside. Those vessels have conquered 100 worlds. Their weapons can crack planets. Their shields have never been penetrated. You have never faced weapons like ours, Admiral Choi said quietly. Because such weapons do not exist. General Mordak's voice shook the room. Your species has barely left its birth world. You know nothing of real war. Chief Engineer Yoon Ji-hee tried again. The energy calculations are valid. We can demonstrate the physics if you wish. Physics? Science Commander Zethara's laugh was like breaking glass. Your species hasn't even mastered faster than light travel independently. You required our assistance to reach this station. What could you possibly know about advanced physics? The hologram showed more test footage. A railgun fired at a target made of the same materials used in alien ship hulls. The projectile punched through the target like it was made of paper, leaving a hole so clean it looked like it had been cut with a laser. Clever special effects, General Mordak said dismissively. But we are not children to be fooled by human trickery. Admiral Choi leaned back in his chair. He had tried diplomacy. He had tried warnings. The aliens refused to listen. What would it take to convince you that our weapons are real? Nothing, Science Commander Zethara said immediately, because they are not real. No primitive species develops advanced kinetic weapons before mastering basic energy manipulation. It violates every pattern of technological development we have observed. Perhaps we developed differently than other species, Yoon Ji-hee suggested. Impossible, the science commander replied. Technology follows natural laws. There is only one path to advancement, and humans are barely at the beginning of that path. General Mordak returned to the table. Enough delay. The Krex Coalition will take administrative control of your colonies next week. Resistance will be met with force. That would be unwise, Admiral Choi said. Are you threatening us? The general's eyes glowed with what humans might have mistaken for amusement, but was actually bloodlust. I am warning you, Admiral Choi replied calmly. Our defensive capabilities are greater than you understand. Defensive? General Mordak laughed again. You mean the metal toys you showed us? Our shields will turn them to vapor before they travel 10 meters. Science Commander Zethara stood as well. The Veltari Empire supports the Krex position. Humanity requires guidance from superior civilizations. She gestured at the holographic display, which still showed human weapons test data. Even if these fabricated velocities were real, kinetic weapons are inherently limited. They cannot change course, cannot be guided, cannot adapt to battlefield conditions. They also cannot be jammed, cannot be deflected by magnetic fields, and do not lose effectiveness over distance, Admiral Choi pointed out. Theoretical advantages that are meaningless against advanced defenses, the Science Commander dismissed. Our point defense systems can track and destroy thousands of projectiles per second. Can they track projectiles moving at 20% of light speed? Yoon Ji-hee asked. They do not need to, because such projectiles cannot exist, came the reply. The meeting continued for 2 more hours, but it was clear that nothing would convince the aliens. They had decided that human weapons were primitive and impossible, and no amount of evidence would change their minds. As the humans prepared to leave, General Mordak delivered a final warning. Krex ships will arrive at your colonies in 7 days. Do not interfere and your people will not be harmed. And if we do interfere? Admiral Choi asked. The general's smile showed teeth like broken stone. The colony ship New Busan hung in space like a metal city, its hull gleaming under the light of an alien sun. Commander Han Woo-jin stood on the observation deck and watched construction robots working on the outer hull. After 6 months of hard work, the colony was finally beginning to feel like home. Commander, we're getting strange readings on long-range sensors, reported Lieutenant Song Na-young from the bridge. Her voice carried a note of concern that made Han's stomach tighten. Han left the observation deck and hurried to the bridge. The New Busan was not a warship, but it had been equipped with military sensors for protection. What those sensors were showing made Han's blood run cold. 12 ships approaching fast, reported sensor operator Kim Dae-ho. Configuration matches Krex Coalition warships. Han stared at the display. The Krex ships were still hours away, but their intentions were clear. They were coming in attack formation, weapons powered and shields active. Send a message to Earth Command, Han ordered. Tell them we're about to be attacked. Lieutenant Song worked at her console, her fingers flying, over the controls. Message sent, but it will take hours to reach Earth. We're on our own. Han nodded grimly. He had hoped the diplomatic meetings would prevent this, but deep down, he had known it was coming. The aliens saw humanity as weak, and the weak were always targeted first. What are our defensive capabilities, he asked. Standard energy shields, but they're designed for meteor impacts, not military weapons, Song replied. Point defense systems can handle small debris, but nothing larger than a few kilograms. Han walked to the tactical display and studied their options. The New Busan was a civilian vessel with minimal military equipment. Against Krex warships, it would last about as long as an ice cube in a furnace. What about the surface installations? He asked. Song checked another display. The mining operation has basic shielding, and there are emergency shelters for the colonists. But if the Krex decide to bombard the planet, she didn't need to finish the sentence. Everyone on the bridge knew what Krex bombardment could do to an undefended world. Sir, sensor operator Kim spoke up. There is something else. The construction teams installed those new defensive batteries last month. The ones from Earth Command. Han felt a spark of hope. He had wondered why Earth would send such heavy equipment to a peaceful colony world. Now he understood. Earth Command had been preparing for this. Where are they located? Hidden in the mountain ranges on both major continents, Kim replied. The technical specs are classified, but the power requirements suggest there's some kind of advanced kinetic weapons. Lieutenant Song frowned. Kinetic weapons against Krex shields? That seems pointless. Han wasn't so sure. Earth Command didn't waste resources on pointless weapons. There had to be more to it than simple kinetic projectiles. The hours crawled by as the Krex ships approached. The colonists were evacuated to emergency shelters deep underground, but the New Busan couldn't run. It was too large and too slow, and there was nowhere to hide in the empty system. Commander Han stood on the bridge and watched death approach. The Krek ships were beautiful in their own way, sleek predators built for one purpose, destroying anyone who opposed them. Their hulls were dark metal that seemed to absorb light, and energy fields flickered around them like deadly aurora. Incoming. Transmission. Song reported. The Kreks want to talk. Put it through. The main screen flickered and showed the bridge of a Krek's warship. The alien commander was typical of his species. Massive, armored, scarred from countless battles. His eyes glowed with the anticipation of easy victory. I am Battle Leader Korthel of the Krek's vessel Bone Crusher, the alien said. His translator made his voice sound like grinding stone. You will surrender your colony and submit to Krek's authority. Han straightened his shoulders and looked directly at the alien commander. I am Commander Han Wujin of the New Busan colony. This system is under the protection of the United Earth government. You are not welcome here. Battle Leader Korthel's laugh shook the speakers. Earth protection? Your little metal toys cannot harm us, human. Our shields will turn your pathetic projectiles into vapor. You might be surprised, Han said calmly. Surprised? The Krek's commander leaned forward, his massive frame filling the screen. Human, we have conquered species far more advanced than yours. Your primitive weapons are no threat to the Krek's coalition. Han had been hoping to avoid bloodshed, but it was clear the Kreks would not listen to reason. Just like the diplomatic meetings, they refused to believe that humans might possess effective weapons. Last chance, Han said. Leave this system peacefully and no one needs to get hurt. Battle Leader Korthel's expression shifted from amusement to anger. You dare threaten us. We will teach you the price of defying the Kreks. The transmission ended, and immediately the Kreks ships opened fire. Energy beams lanced across space, striking the New Busan's shields. The entire ship shuddered as the defensive systems overloaded. Lights flickered on the bridge and the air filled with the smell of burning electronics. Shields at 60% and falling fast, Song reported. We can't take much more of this. More beams struck the colony ship. The shields flared and sparked, then failed completely. The next salvo punched through the hull, tearing massive holes in the outer sections. Hull breach on deck 7 through 12, Kim shouted over the alarms. Emergency force fields are holding, but barely. Han gripped his command chair as the ship shook again. Through the viewport, he could see the Krek ships closing in for the kill. Their weapons charged for another devastating volley. But then something unexpected happened. The mountain ranges on the planet below began to glow. Sections of rock slid away to reveal massive metal structures that had been hidden beneath. The defensive batteries that Earth Command had secretly installed were powering up. What are those things? Song whispered, staring at the tactical display. The weapons were enormous, each one the size of a city block. They looked like giant metal tubes surrounded by complex machinery that sparked with electrical energy. Power readings were off the charts, drawing electricity from fusion reactors buried. Deep underground, railguns, Han breathed, they're railguns. On the Krek's flagship, Battle Leader Korthel was preparing to finish off the human colony ship when his sensors detected the power buildup on the planet's surface. What is that? He demanded of his sensor operator. Unknown weapons charging, sir. Energy readings are significant. Korthel studied the displays with growing confusion. The weapons looked primitive, just metal tubes with electromagnetic coils. But the power levels were higher than anything he had seen from human technology. Kinetic weapons, he decided with contempt. Charge our point defenses. We will vaporize their metal bullets before they can travel 10 meters. The first railgun fired. The projectile was a solid tungsten rod 3 meters long and half a meter thick. It accelerated down the massive barrel, pushed by magnetic fields powerful enough to light a city. Within seconds, it was moving at 25% of the speed of light. Battle Leader Korthel watched the projectile approach on his screens. It was just a metal slug, exactly what he had expected from primitive humans. His point defense, systems locked onto it ready to destroy it with concentrated plasma beams. The plasma beams fired. They struck the projectile dead on, but at such incredible velocity The tungsten rod barely slowed down. The energy meant to vaporize it simply. Couldn't act fast enough. The projectile punched through the plasma like it wasn't even there. Next, it hit the Krex ship's shields. The energy barrier was designed to stop plasma weapons, particle beams, and conventional projectiles. It was rated to deflect anything moving slower than 10% of light speed. The tungsten rod was moving at 25% of light speed. The shield lasted for exactly 3 milliseconds before the projectile tore through it like tissue paper. The energy released was so intense that nearby space lit up like a miniature sun. Then the rod hit the Krex ship's hull. The Bone Crusher was built to withstand the most powerful weapons in the galaxy. Its armor was composite metal harder than diamond, layered with energy-absorbing materials that could disperse the heat from plasma weapons. It had survived direct hits from antimatter warheads. None of that mattered. The tungsten rod struck the ship at a significant fraction of light speed, carrying kinetic energy equivalent to several nuclear weapons. The laws of physics took over. With brutal efficiency, the ship's molecular structure couldn't handle the impact. Metal turned to plasma. Armor became superheated gas. The entire vessel simply disintegrated. The Bone Crusher vanished in a flash of light that could be seen from the other side of the solar system. Battle Leader Korthal had exactly enough time to register shock before he and his crew were converted to their component atoms. On the remaining Krex ships, the commanders stared in disbelief at where their flagship had been. It was simply gone, replaced by an expanding cloud of glowing gas. "Impossible," whispered Battle Leader Vextar from the second ship. "Nothing can penetrate Krex shields." But the evidence was right in front of them. Somehow the humans had built weapons that could destroy their most powerful warships with a single shot. The second railgun fired, then the third. Then all 12 batteries opened up together. The Krex ships tried to maneuver, but the projectiles were too fast. Fleet Admiral Korthak of the Veltari Empire stood in the command center of his flagship, the Eternal Glory, and stared at the tactical display showing the Sol system. 500 of the galaxy's most advanced warships surrounded him, the largest fleet ever assembled against a single species. "The humans cannot be allowed to possess such weapons," he said to War Master Volnash of the Krex Coalition. The battle at New Busan was clearly a fluke, some kind of special circumstance that will not be repeated. The massive Krex commander's odd, scarred face showed doubt. 11 ships destroyed in 10 minutes, Admiral. Our most powerful vessels turned to vapor by primitive kinetic weapons." "Impossible weapons," Korthak corrected. "The physics don't support such velocities. The humans must have used some kind of trick, perhaps hidden explosive devices or energy weapons disguised as projectiles." Around them, the bridge crew of mixed alien species worked at their stations. Representatives from dozens of civilizations had joined the fleet, united by fear of the impossible human weapons. If primitives could build such things, what did that mean for the established galactic order? "Sir," called out the Veltari sensor operator, her musical voice tight with nervousness. "We're detecting human ships approaching from the inner system." Korthak turned to the main display. 50 human vessels were moving toward them in a loose formation. They looked crude compared to the elegant alien ships, like tools compared to works of art. "Only 50 ships," War Master Volnash growled. "Against our 500. "Exactly as expected," Korthak said with satisfaction. "Humans lack the industrial capacity for large fleets. This will be over quickly." The lead human ship was transmitting an identification signal. EDS Sejong, commanded by Captain Bai Jiwan. Intelligence reports said she was one of Earth's most experienced officers, but Korthak doubted any human had real military experience. "Open a communication channel," he ordered. The screen flickered, showing the bridge of the human flagship. Captain Bai was a small woman by human standards, but she carried herself with quiet confidence. Her bridge was functional rather than beautiful, every surface covered with displays and controls. "I am Fleet Admiral Korthak of the Veltari Empire," he began. "You are surrounded and outgunned. Surrender now and your deaths will be quick." Captain Bai looked directly at him, her dark eyes showing no fear. "I am Captain Bai Jiwan of the Earth Defense Fleet. You are in violation of human space. Leave immediately or we will defend ourselves." Korthak's melodious laughter filled the bridge. Defend yourselves? With what? Your magical kinetic weapons that defy physics? With weapons you have consistently underestimated, she replied calmly. Human, we have studied the new Busan incident extensively, the Admiral said. Whatever trick you used there will not work against a prepared fleet. Our shields have been reconfigured, our point defenses enhanced. On the Krek's flagship, War Master Vulnash leaned toward his communication console. Our armor has been reinforced with anti-kinetic plating. Even if your weapons are real, they cannot penetrate our defenses. Captain Bay was quiet for a moment, then spoke with what sounded like genuine regret. We tried to warn you multiple times, you wouldn't listen. Warn us? Korthak's voice rose with indignation. Primitives do not warn their superiors. This conversation is over, Captain Bay said, and cut the transmission. Korthak stared at the blank screen in amazement. No one had ever dared hang up on a Veltari, fleet admiral, before. All ships attack formation, he commanded. Show these primitives the power of true civilization. The alien fleet opened fire with everything they had. Energy beams lanced across space, each one capable of destroying a city. Particle weapons sent streams of antimatter toward the human ships. Missile swarms launched by the hundreds, each warhead carrying enough explosive power to crack a moon. The human ships took the assault head-on. Their energy shields flared and sparked under the incredible bombardment. Several ships lost their defensive screens entirely, their hulls exposed to the devastating alien firepower. Direct hits confirmed, reported the Veltari tactical officer. Human shields are failing. More alien weapons struck home. The human ship EDS Busan exploded in a ball of fire, its hull torn apart by Krek's plasma cannons. 2 more human vessels lost propulsion and began drifting helplessly. As expected, Korthak said with satisfaction. Human defensive technology is centuries behind ours. But then something strange happened. Instead of retreating or trying to flee, the remaining human ships began to turn toward the alien fleet. Their crude, boxy hulls were scarred by weapon impacts, but they kept coming. What are they doing? War Master Vulnash demanded. They cannot hope to ram us. On the EDS Sejong, Captain Bay watched the tactical display with grim determination. Her ship had taken heavy damage, but the railgun systems were still operational. All ships target the largest vessels, she ordered. Fire when ready. The human fleet opened fire. The EDS Sejong's main railgun was a marvel of human engineering, built by Dr. Kim So-young's team using principles the galaxy insisted were impossible. The weapon stretched the length of the ship, its electromagnetic coils powered by fusion reactors that could light a city. A tungsten rod 5 meters long began its journey down the barrel, accelerated by magnetic fields that bent space itself. Within 3 seconds, it was moving at 25% of light speed. The energy contained in that single projectile was equivalent to a small nuclear weapon. Fleet Admiral Korthak watched the projectile approach on his sensors. It looked exactly like the simple kinetic rounds his people had been expecting. His enhanced point defenses locked on, ready to vaporize it with concentrated plasma. Fire, he commanded. Dozens of defense turrets opened up, sending streams of superheated plasma toward the incoming projectile. The energy beams should have turned the tungsten rod into gas long before it could reach the ship, but the rod was moving too fast for the plasma to be effective. At 25% of light speed, it passed through the defensive fire in milliseconds. The energy meant to destroy it barely had time to register before the projectile was gone. The rod struck the Eternal Glory's shields at full velocity. Korthak had ordered the shields reconfigured specifically to handle kinetic weapons. They were now tuned to deflect solid projectiles with energy fields designed to vaporize any incoming matter. None of it made any difference. The tungsten rod punched through the shields like they were made of paper. The impact released so much energy that nearby space lit up with radiation across the entire spectrum. The shield generators overloaded and exploded, sending feedback through the ship's power systems. Then the rod hit the hull. The Eternal Glory was built to survive anything the galaxy could throw at it. Its armor was exotic matter held together by force fields, theoretically capable of withstanding direct hits from antimatter weapons. The laws of physics disagreed. When an object moving at a significant fraction of light speed hits a solid barrier, the results are catastrophic. The rod's kinetic energy was instantly converted to heat and pressure. The ship's molecular structure simply couldn't handle the impact. The Eternal Glory didn't just explode. It disintegrated. Metal became plasma. Exotic matter returned to its component particles. The flagship of the Veltari fleet simply ceased to exist, replaced by an expanding sphere of superheated gas. Fleet Admiral Korthak had just enough time to feel shock before he joined his ship in becoming a cloud of ionized atoms. Across the battlefield, the scene repeated itself. Human railguns fired again and again, each shot destroying an alien warship with surgical precision. The projectiles moved too fast to intercept, hit too hard to stop, and carried too much energy to survive. War Master Fulnash watched from his flagship as vessel after vessel vanished in flashes of light. His enhanced armor, his reconfigured shields, his upgraded weapons, none of it mattered against projectiles that treated the laws of physics like suggestions. "Return fire," he roared. "All weapons, maximum power." The remaining alien ships poured everything they had into the human fleet. Energy weapons, particle beams, antimatter missiles. The destructive power was enough to sterilize planets. But the humans kept coming. Their ships were damaged, their hulls scarred and broken, but their railguns never stopped firing. Each shot was perfectly aimed, each impact utterly devastating. The Krek Super Dreadnought Iron Fist took a direct hit from 3 railgun rounds simultaneously. The ship was 2 kilometers long and armored with metal harder than diamond. It lasted for exactly 4 milliseconds after impact. A Veltari battlecruiser tried to escape into hyperspace, but a tungsten rod moving at 27% of VARI light speed caught it just as the jump field activated. The resulting explosion created a temporary rift in space-time that swallowed 2 nearby ships. On the EDS Sejong, Captain Bay watched the tactical display as the alien fleet fell apart around them. Ships that had ruled the galaxy for thousands of years were being destroyed by weapons their owners claimed were impossible. Incoming transmission from multiple alien vessels, her communications officer reported. "They're trying to surrender." "Too late for that," Captain Bay said quietly. Her ship shuddered as another alien energy beam struck the hull. "They came here to destroy us. Now they can face the consequences." The emergency session of the Galactic Council was unlike anything in recorded history. Representatives from hundreds of species filled the great chamber on Harmony Point, their voices creating a chaos of sound that the universal translators struggled to process. Veltari Empress Ylandra stood at the center podium, her normally perfect composure cracked by fear and rage. The destruction of her fleet had shattered more than ships. It had broken the fundamental assumptions that held galactic civilization together. "The humans must be stopped," she declared, her musical voice carrying across the vast chamber. "Their weapons violate every natural law. They cannot be allowed to spread this technology." Krek's Emperor Thoxel's massive form dominated his section of the chamber. Scars covered his stone-like skin, each one a trophy from a conquered world. But now those conquests seemed meaningless against an enemy who could destroy his greatest ships with single shots. "My fleets ruled the galaxy for 1,000 years, he rumbled, his voice like grinding stone. "Now they are vapor, destroyed by primitives with impossible weapons." Around the chamber, other species leaders voiced their own fears. The crystalline Zephyrians rang like broken bells. The energy-based luminals flickered with distress. Even the ancient Eternals, who had witnessed the rise and fall of countless civilizations, seemed shaken by what they had learned. "How is this possible?" demanded the Zephyrian resonator. "Our greatest scientists insist that such velocities would destroy any solid projectile." "Perhaps our scientists are wrong," suggested a luminal entity, its form wavering with uncertainty. "Science is not wrong," Empress Ylandra's voice cracked like a whip. "The humans are using some kind of deception, some technology they stole or discovered by accident." But even as she spoke, the evidence was overwhelming. The battle footage showed human projectiles moving at impossible speeds, punching through shields that should have stopped them, destroying ships that should have been invulnerable. Emperor Thoxel accessed his tactical displays, reviewing the data his surviving ships had transmitted. The projectiles achieved 25 to 30% of light speed. At those velocities, kinetic energy alone is sufficient to destroy any known defense. Then we build better defenses, the Empress insisted. Stronger shields, thicker armor, faster point defense systems. Against projectiles moving that fast? The Emperor's laugh was bitter. Nothing can react quickly enough. Nothing can absorb that much energy. In the diplomatic section of the chamber, Ambassador Lee Junho watched the alien leaders debate humanity's fate. He had requested permission to address the council, but so far he had been ignored. The aliens were too busy arguing among themselves to listen to human explanations. Beside him, General Park Minho observed the proceedings with professional interest. The former captain had been promoted after the successful defense of human space, and now he served as humanity's military liaison. They still don't understand, he murmured to Lee. They think we're using some kind of trick. Lee nodded sadly. Even now, facing undeniable evidence, the aliens refused to accept that they had been wrong about human capabilities. The debate raged for hours. Some species called for immediate military action against humanity. Others urged diplomatic solutions. A few suggested that the galaxy should simply avoid human space and hope the primitives remained isolated. We could blockade their system, suggested the HFY War commander. Prevent them from spreading to other worlds. With what ships? Emperor Thoxel demanded. They destroyed our combined fleets. What makes you think a blockade would be more effective? Then we use other methods, Empress Ylandra said coldly. Biological weapons, nanite swarms, antimatter, bombs delivered by stealth. Those are forbidden under galactic law, protested a representative of the Peaceful Harmony League. Galactic law assumes both sides fight with conventional weapons, the Empress snapped. The humans have changed the rules. We must change with them or be destroyed. Finally, the council speaker called for order. The ancient being was one of the Eternals, so old that some wondered if it remembered the birth of the galaxy itself. Before we decide humanity's fate, it said in a voice like cosmic wind, perhaps we should hear what they have to say. Lee Junho rose from his seat and walked to the center of the chamber. All around him, hundreds of alien representatives watched with expressions ranging from curiosity to hatred. He had never felt so alone. Honored beings of the council, he began, his voice amplified across the vast space. Humanity comes before you not as conquerors, but as defenders. We have repeatedly tried to warn you about our capabilities, but you refuse to listen. Warn us? Empress Ylandra's voice dripped with contempt. You claim to possess impossible weapons. Impossible by your understanding of physics, Lee replied calmly, but perfectly possible by ours. We developed electromagnetic acceleration technology because we had to. Our species has been fighting each other for thousands of years. We learned to build weapons that could penetrate any defense, move faster than any response. Emperor Thoxel leaned forward in his massive chair. If humans have possessed such weapons for thousands of years, why did you not use them immediately upon first contact? Because we hoped for peace, Lee said simply. We wanted to join the galactic community as equals, not as conquerors. But you saw us as primitives to be exploited, and you refused to believe our warnings about the consequences. Your warnings were lies, the Empress accused. No species develops advanced kinetic weapons before mastering energy manipulation. General Park stepped forward to join Lee at the center of the chamber. With respect, Your Majesty, that assumption was wrong. Humanity took a different path to advanced technology. We focused on kinetic systems because they are reliable, efficient, and nearly impossible to defend against. You speak of efficiency, rang the Zephyrian resonator. What efficiency is there in weapons that destroy everything they touch? The efficiency of ending conflicts quickly, Park replied. When both sides know that any battle could result in total annihilation, they tend to choose negotiation instead. The chamber fell silent as the implications sank in. Humanity had developed weapons so devastating that they had forced their own species to choose peace or extinction. The council speaker's ancient voice filled the silence. What do you want from us humans? Li looked around the chamber, meeting the alien gazes without flinching. The same thing we have always wanted. Trade, cooperation, peaceful coexistence. We have no desire to rule the galaxy or destroy other civilizations. Then why did you annihilate our fleets? Emperor Thoxel demanded. Because you attacked us, Li replied with steel in his voice. You demanded tribute from our colonies. You refused to accept our sovereignty. You forced us to defend ourselves. And if we attack again? Empress Yelandra's voice was barely controlled fury. Li was quiet for a long moment, then spoke with quiet certainty. Then we will defend ourselves again, and again, until either you accept that we have the right to exist in peace, or there are no more fleets left to send against us. The threat hung in the air like a sword. Around the chamber, alien representatives exchanged nervous glances. The small human in the center of their great assembly had just told them that his species would fight the entire galaxy if necessary. This is intolerable, the Empress said finally. Primitives cannot be allowed to threaten their superiors. Then perhaps, suggested the ancient council speaker, it is time to reconsider who is truly primitive and who is advanced. Over the following weeks, the galactic situation changed rapidly. Some species, recognizing the futility of fighting humanity's railguns, began negotiating trade agreements and non-aggression pacts. Ambassador Li found himself busier than ever, fielding requests from civilizations that had previously ignored or dismissed humanity. Dr. Kim So-young was invited to present her research to alien scientists who had once called her work impossible. She stood in lecture halls filled with beings who had mocked human physics, explaining the principles behind electromagnetic acceleration in terms they could finally understand. The key insight, she told a gathering of Veltari researchers, is that you don't need to contain the projectile indefinitely. You only need to hold it together long enough to reach the target. Chief Engineer Yoon Ji-hee established training programs for alien engineers who wanted to understand kinetic technology. The demand was enormous. Species that had relied on energy weapons for millennia suddenly wanted to learn about magnetic acceleration, but not everyone was willing to accept the new reality. Empress Yelandra and Emperor Thoxel formed a secret alliance, pooling their resources to develop countermeasures against human weapons. They recruited scientists from dozens of species, promising vast rewards for anyone who could solve the railgun problem. There must be a way, the Empress insisted during a clandestine meeting on a remote world. No weapon is truly unstoppable. Perhaps, the Emperor replied doubtfully. But even if we find a defense, can we implement it before the humans develop even more advanced weapons? It was a question that haunted their dreams. If humanity had achieved such devastating effectiveness with simple kinetic projectiles, what horrors might they unleash if truly threatened?